This video, I'm going to be going over Fancy's championship winning defense. And this is just, some of the things that obviously are critical if you want to run kind of a similar defense to what Fancy was doing. We're going to be breaking this down. He was running primarily dollar. He did have 4-3 even 6-1 as another defensive option within what he was doing. So in this video, I'm just going to be breaking down, kind of some of the things that I saw him do, some of the things I already knew about, and some of the things that we can take away from his defense, because his defense is really what won him the game. His defense has been winning him games all year, and his MCS season, Madden 25, is going to go down as currently the best MCS season in history of Madden. And so, just wanted to kind of do this video in honor of him and just kind of explaining some of the things that I learned from him as well. And I'm pretty sure he's partnered over with 818 Madden, so I'll leave a link to their site down in the description. If you guys want to take your Madden game next level with me, my ebooks are all in our school community. If you're not a school member yet, it's only $10, and that link is going to be in the description down below. So again, if you guys want to check those links out, everything's going to be in the description. But what I wanted to get into is first and foremost the lineup. So the lineup that Fancy used, there's some principles in which we can take away for ourselves. And this isn't necessarily like the only way to do it. This is simply a way to do it. And so I'm actually going to pull up his exact MCS Madden Bowl lineup on the screen, and we're going to actually compare it to my lineup here. So let's see if we can actually do this. So as you see, this was Fancy's Madden Bowl lineup, and he had a couple differences than I did, probably mainly just because he can literally have every single card in the game. And yeah, so we'll leave it at that. So the biggest thing that he has here is he has Malcolm Jenkins as cornerback number 3 there, slot corner probably. Dontari Poe, right? Some of these like just super expensive cards right now. But the biggest thing here is he has that Urlacher card, but he doesn't even have, I don't think he has any abilities on him or anything. His main user was going to be Kyle Pitts. He has Harrison Barno, Jenkins, Cooper DeJean, Pat Pete, Michael Williams, Ronnie Lott, Ken Houston, Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas was his starting safety, and then I believe that Ronnie Lott was down in the box of the defense. I'm not 100% sure. I have to look at that. But anyway, these are some of the principles that he was using. And then I want to go over to my lineup here, and this is good. And this is kind of just going to show you like the main abilities that I think are the most important abilities that you can have in this game. And the main abilities that I think really, really matter in this game are as many KOs as possible. So the reason that I use Dion and Jalen Ramsey is primarily just because they have universal coverage for 3 AP. You get universal coverage, and then that's pretty much like everything else. You don't need really anything other than that. Universal coverage is every single KO man in zone in the game, so I like having that on my safeties. You don't have to have that. They might have even banned those abilities within the agreement that they played. But in general, the idea here is if you can't get universal coverage, the main ability that you need is really this stack that's on Cooper DeJean, which Fancy was using Cooper DeJean as his number 1 corner. And the stack that's on Cooper DeJean here is deep zone KO, mid zone KO, and then pick artist for 0 AP. I put flat zone KO on just because I don't think pick artist really, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's just a waste. And so I would rather just have another KO. But the main thing here is deep zone KO and mid zone KO. Those are the 2 most important abilities that you can have on the defensive side of the ball this year. Really everywhere. So like this Pat Pete card, for example, same kind of thing here. We have deep out zone KO. He doesn't really need deep zone because he's a corner. But we got mid zone and we've got flat zone. And I mean, Pat Pete literally gets everything basically. But again, the primary point is just the KOs. That's like super, super important. If you don't have that in your roster, you need to get some cards that have KOs. Especially at this point in the year, there's so many discounts. The other thing that is really important, in my opinion, is tip drill on some of these combine cards on the defensive line. That's going to help you catch D-line picks. This interior threat isn't like that's not super important. I'm just messing around with it. But in general, you need some type of pick artist or tip drill on those guys. And then if you are going to use our linebacker, like I use our Nitschke still, And the reason I use him is just because he gets mid zone and lurk artist for 0 AP. But there are some other options. Brian Urlacher, which Fancy had on his team, and you could also just use your 2 safeties. This Xavier Watts card is super good, and they're probably the best looper in the game. The reason why he's so good is he has tip drill pick artist for 0 AP. I will say one of the things, which I don't know that I can actually put this on him. I don't think you can, but it'd be crazy if you had a looper that had a strip specialist. I'd actually pay for that in this year's game. So anyway, but that's what I go with. And then the specialists here, I have Watts and Nitschke as my 2 guys, and then my slot corners. This is actually kind of important. Pick artists if you can, but really the abilities that I like, and is you see here, this Herb Adderley card is kind of the perfect slot corner because he gets pick artist, mid zone KO, and flat zone KO for a combined total of 1 AP. You want mid zone and flat zone if you could possibly get it in your slot. That really helps a lot. But in general, this is kind of the team aspect. This Barno card is super good. Like it's a really, really, really good card. I actually need to get an upgrade token so I can get better abilities there. But the main thing is 0 AP edge threat and 0 AP lurker. And so, anyways, those are just some of the key positions, some of the key players within the defense. All these combine cards are pretty much 99 speed after you do all the power ups and stuff. So anyway, that is Fancy's lineup, and we'll get into kind of his plays. The only thing I wanted to say is I think Fancy actually runs the Texans defense, but the Jets is what I use, and I'm pretty sure they're the same exact playbook. So, but the primary formation that he uses is dollar, which is the formation we're going to be going. Okay, so for this part of the video, we're going to be going over the coaching adjustments that I think that Fancy used. Again, you can't 100% be sure, but this is kind of what I think that he was doing just based off the film analysis and things like that. So again, we're in the Jets playbook. I believe he's in Texans, and the core coach adjustments for somebody that runs dollar is typically going to be this. It's going to be auto flip off, auto lemon on base, option defense on conservative, and then what was really unique about Fancy is he doesn't really set zone drops. I believe that if he was going to set some zone drops, it might be situationally hooks on 5, but you really don't see him do that a lot. His yellow zones he kind of leaves them as is. He might shade them down. You basically have to make him put these on 5, and really nobody did. The only person that I could think of that did was Clef, and yeah, anyway. So I'm pretty sure that these were the zone drops that he was using because Fancy would utilize some match coverages. And then the primary formation that he was utilizing was dollar. Now, in this playbook, you also have 6-1, which what Fancy would do if he was going to go to 6-1, more than likely is he would sub in a smaller user. Ray Nitschke is kind of a little bit too big for this. And so he'd probably have like, Oren Burks or something like that there with Nitschke on the outside, and then put his lineup as is here. So anyways, if you want to set up 6-1, basically what you want is you want fast, small defensive linemen. Okay, fast and small, super important. And then you want outside linebackers if you can get them outside, so like Jalen Walker, Barno, right? This is a pretty good lineup here. So anywho, back to dime 3-2 or dollar 3-2. And what Fancy would basically do is this guy on the right side is going to be your blitzer. So that's where like Xavier Watts would be. What Fancy was actually doing was able to get the legit depth chart. He actually had Oren Burks as his user, and then he had Devin White as his looper. I don't, that's kind of like preference. Honestly, I would prefer safety still. So anyways, probably the reason why he was using the linebacker is because he gets the 0 AP lurk artist, but Xavier Watts gets tip drill. So I get both ways there. But anyway, the slot corners, Will Johnson, Herb Adderley, they're already set for you. Cooper DeJean, Pat Pete on the outside, and then Dion and Jalen on the inside for me. Fancy, I believe, was using a couple of different cards there. But generally, the main abilities that matter are the KOs. Now, the audibles, this is where I think gets a little interesting. I'm not 100% sure what his audibles were. I'm almost positive you saw some variation of this. But there's a new defense that we've kind of been seeing a lot of people go to, and it is this strong safety zone blitz. This is a really, really good defense to use because it doesn't get bombed. Like this cover four quarters can sometimes get bombed because the match principles within it. Strong safety zone blitz doesn't, but the trick is you have to shade the coverage down for it not to get bombed. And then Fancy was using DB Fire 2. This was kind of his big change-up defense he would use situationally. Cover 4 drop with the engage defense. And then this cover 4 quarters is really his match coverage. He might have used palms, I'm not sure, but I do believe it was cover 4 quarters. When he would want to go to match there. So, and then what Fancy would do is he would come out in double safety go. And I'll show you kind of his core blitzing components of the defense, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the coverages. And Fancy, ironically, if you actually watch the film, is fairly simple on offense or fairly simple on defense in terms of his coverage shells, and also fairly simple in terms of his adjustments. He's there's only a couple shells that he was really utilizing. Okay, so the main blitzing aspects of this defense is the first one is this crossfire blitz. So the first setup here is going to be cover 4 quarters. We're going to shade underneath, and that's if we don't want to have match coverage, we would shade underneath. We're going to walk that guy over. You see how it's going to create a cross loop, and then we're just going to run down and essentially in a coverage like this. And a lot of times that guy can crossfire into the gap for pressure. The other version of the same thing would be to use strong safety zone blitz. As you see, it's a slightly different blitz angle. And then what Fancy would do is he would take this safety on the right side and put him in an inside quarter. Now, a big tip is you have to shade down. Otherwise, you're going to get weird match principles from the cover 3 match. And then the other thing that's really important is this middle third defender is going to backpedal fairly slow. So if you see the left slot on a streak, you need to switch stick onto him and move him, like run him back. Or if you don't want to deal with that, you can inside quarter. But Fancy, normally that guy was going to be on a middle third, okay? Because that was also Fancy's primary switch stick for any kind of crossing route from right to left. Anyway, as you see here, there's that crossfire blitz, giving some nice pressure and forcing the pocket to kind of, be held. And again, these blitzes aren't going to come in every single time. It's really not the point. Fancy's been quoted this year talking about how the pressure is really not even that big of a deal. It's just the fact that you can get some pressure, you have the threat of some pressure, but really this formation is optimized for switch stick. So those are the first 2 blitzes. The third blitz looks exactly the same, but it's going to be out of cover 4 drop. You're going to walk this guy over. You're going to blitz him. You've got your user already on a hook curl. You want to be down here kind of in the same spot. But now you're going to actually hit the guard. So you're going to drop the DT into coverage, shade underneath, and then you're going to run down, hit the guard, and then get into coverage. And as you can see, that blitz right there is really, really effective. Fancy actually did not run this defense a ton in this game against John Beast, but this is a great defense to run against somebody if they don't have good pass protection for it. And what happens is, and this is why I think Dollar is so good, is because you have that blitz. One of the best ways to block that blitz is some slide, kind of over slide protect to the left, or just over protect to the left, basically. Maybe ID, different things like that. And what happens is when you start to slide protect and stuff like that, that's going to open up this crossfire pressure, as you see right here. And so that's kind of the back and forth of the game. And then the other blitz that Fancy would use situationally would be DB Fire 2. But what he would do, which is kind of cool, he would walk this guy over and make it look like it was the loop blitz or the crossfire blitz. And then what you'll typically get there is some type of slide protection, right? You might be sliding right, you might be sliding left, and now these outside slot corners can scream in off of the outside edges. Fancy typically would send 5 from this, and one of the major adjustments that he would do is he would take these deep halves and he would put them in inside quarters. So the reason why you put them in inside quarters is so they run back at the snap of the ball. The soft squats, though, if you were ever getting a combo like this on the left side, you would then want to switch stick, obviously, to the quarter. As you'll see here, just switch stick to the quarter and go take that deep fade, right? So those were kind of the main blitzing components that Fancy was utilizing situationally throughout the game, and for a variety of different reasons. Honestly, though, I will tell you, his main defense is this right here. Like, this was his base defense, and everything else was kind of a change up off of that. If your opponent starts to pick that blitz up significantly, one of the best change ups, and this is something that Fancy would go to, again, just to kind of change up the pressure. Let's say they go to a play action play, because play action play is really good against these crossfire blitzes. what Fancy would do is he'd set up this cover 4 drop defense. And the reason why this is so good is because this is a 3-man blitz that comes in if they call play action play, as you see. And then the other thing that you saw Fancy do is, again, if they're starting to get a lot of good pass protection on the interior, then typically what you're going to see is you're going to see this DB Fire 2. He called this basically once every 4-ish plays. And I think it was primarily just to change the picture. And you see how just fast it can come in, especially on play action. Okay. So those are the primary blitzing components of the defense. And now I want to touch on the primary coverage components of the offense, or of the defense. So John Beast was running kind of something similar to this formation most of the game, doubles flex close. And really there was a couple key threats. The first one is obviously the PA snag with the corner route, or the Y sail with the corner route. So something like this basically was pretty popular. Another, could get to it a couple different ways, but essentially this was kind of what you were getting. So what Fancy's core coverage was really this strong safety zone blitz, and then he would take that safety, put him on the quarter, and he's going to shade underneath. Now, the trick with this coverage, and what makes this actually really good, is Fancy's ability to switch stick onto this middle third, and then switch stick here to go take that away. And that was really, kind of the core of that coverage. And that coverage really, kind of countered a lot of different things that John Beast wanted to do offensively. For example, let's say it was going to go to something like this. What's really nice about Fancy not setting zone drops is you can kind of get the same thing out of this cover 4 quarters look if you wanted to. But in general, is essentially he can switch stick here and then let that yellow kind of stay underneath and play like shallow crossers and things like that. So that was really the main reason why I believe that Fancy was running that defense. And what it was designed to stop primarily was seam streaks, and then it was designed to stop kind of the over the middle passing, kind of close off the over the middle throwing windows that a lot of people like. The next shell that Fancy would use, I already kind of touched on a little bit, was this DB Fire shell right here. Now, this is a Sim 5, so you're expecting the pressure to kind of come in a little bit quickly. The main thing and the reason why would you call this coverage shell, for example, is really if you're expecting any kind of speed out on either side, corner route speed out on either side, so something like this. The reason that this is really good against this is because the seam streak is going to get guarded by the quarter, and then the out route is going to get guarded by the soft squat, especially with a KO, right? So you have that soft squat there. The other real big, I think, factor of this is what this linebacker would do on this vert hook. So what this linebacker would do on this vert hook is you're expecting that linebacker to blitz like he does every single time. So you go to a combo like this, and now you're going to see that linebacker is going to actually lurk in the middle of the field. So you see here, he's going to kind of lurk, close off a throwing lane, and then you have the quarter there, right there. That was something that you saw happen a lot throughout the tournament. So anyway, just this idea here. What is this coverage? This is why it's so important to understand what is this coverage designed to stop? This coverage is designed to stop corner routes. It's going to do a decent job against corner routes. It's not going to do a great job against outside fades. But basically, corner routes, everything over the middle, you're going to do a pretty good job. And then Fancy would often switch stick onto either the vert hook or the soft squat defender to carry stuff. Another thing that you could do with this same exact coverage shell is you could shade underneath, and what this shade underneath will do, it'll get this vert hook to play really good, and then you could cloud flat on the outside. So I know he did that a couple times. So sometimes you want soft squat, sometimes you don't. Why would you want a soft squat? You really want a soft squat is if you think they might run a streak on the outside so that it can match it. But what you saw a lot was really this, and then that cloud, as you see, just does a really good job of speed outs, and that's why it's so effective. So you have that coverage really is kind of your speed out. And then if you wanted a little bit more of a conservative coverage and you wanted to kind of cut off a section of the field, what Fancy would do is he would do this out of either cover 4 quarters or strong safety zone blitz. And that would basically just simply be to run a quarter, what I call a quarter, half, even though you wouldn't use a half zone in this year's game. So instead of halving that right side safety, you're just going to run the vertical hook and then you're going to run a soft squat on the outside or a cloud flat, depending on what you want to do. The reason, and Fancy pretty much always did this to the short side of the field, because double fades isn't going to kill you. It's easy to switch stick to it. So why would you run something like this? Because you're worried they're going to run something like this, and then you see how that cloud flat just kind of cuts that off. So it just kind of helps defend the sideline. You could also run that same concept, right? You could also run that same concept like this if you wanted to, and you would have to be a little bit more on your stuff with your user. But this is going to really take away a couple things. It takes away the main thing it's going to take away is the speed out, like something like this combination. Or the other thing it's going to take away is the zig, right? Which is another popular route that people like to throw. They're going to have to, kind of throw that in a tight window against that vert hook. So, and I think typically, I don't know exactly how Fancy was shading, but typically these vert hooks, if you shade outside, they'll play because they have the KO, like that's going to be okay, right? Played it okay. So anyways, that was kind of like the third main shell that he would go to, which really what that was designed to do was it was actually the shell that he got his interception on, by the way, when he picked off John on John's first drive. This was the shell that he was in. It was basically, I don't know if I accidentally called timeout or something. I guess we flipped the sides. All right, sorry about that. So the shell that he would use, again, this is kind of a short side shell, but it's basically something like this. So you got cover 4, you got the shade underneath, and then what you got was this vertical hook and this soft squat or cloud flat, either way. And the reason you would soft squat is typically if you want to match. If you don't soft squat, he won't match, but he'll carry a little deeper if he's right. So I think it was a cloud. But anyway, the combo that John ran was, I think it was actually a Y trips play, but in general, it was just this wheel. And the idea here, if you can picture this being a red zone type deal, this wheel was played by this, cloud, and he was able to pick it off. So anyway, the point is just simply this idea of a short side kind of cover 6 type look. Normally you would put this guy on the left on a deep half, and you put a middle third here to the right, would make sense. But in this year's game, those zones don't run back fast, whereas the inside quarters never get burned over the top, which is really what I think makes them so popular. So anyways, this was kind of the other shell that he would go to. And then the last shell that you saw Fancy use throughout the game really was just simply stock cover 4 quarters, or he would kind of create a cover 4 on one side, cover 6 on the other side. So let me just show you what that would look like. So you would just go to your cover 4 quarters here, and cover 4 quarters is a split field coverage. So you could run it like this and you're basically running quarters to both sides. Or what Fancy would do situationally is he would go vert hook soft squat on one side as well, and then you still have the cover 4 quarters on the left side. So basically you would do is you would now be having, this is kind of like a cover 6 look. It's just the deep half as an inside quarter. And so anyways, this would be something that you would totally see Fancy run. And it's really so that soft spot might be able to take a corner. He might switch like that, but in general, why is cover 4 match really good? Number one, it's just people don't see it a lot. So if you run it and kind of catch them off balance, it's a good defense. The other reason why is they will reroute, as you'll see here. See how they reroute those streaks, and they can do a really good job of just defending some of the bigger, deeper down the field plays that you might get. The thing with cover 4 match is it's basically delayed man coverage, but you get these overhangs that reroute routes, which is cool. And against normal Y of close, there's not a lot of like just automatic one-play touchdowns within the formation itself. You kind of there's a lot of ways to get stuff open against match coverage, but as far as bombing match coverage, it's a little more difficult. So it defends like a combo like this really, really well. As you can see, match coverage pretty much take care of that. So Fancy would mix in that cover 4 quarters look occasionally. This was not something he ran a lot, probably maybe like 3 to 5 times within the matchup against John. He would run that. But as you see, this was a really, really good defense in general. So this was Fancy's $250,000 defense. This defense actually made him a lot more than $250,000. I think that he's going to total over $400,000 earned in one season, which is crazy. I'm not 100% sure if that's accurate, but I know it's a lot of money. He made a lot more money than everybody else did in this game, and it's because of his defense. It's because he built the best defense in Madden, and so this is how I think he runs it, right? As I said in the beginning, he has an ebook out, I think, on 818. So if you want to check that out, that link's going to be in the description. And if you want to check out any of my stuff, it's over at our school page, school.com/Cody Ballard. That link is going to be down in the description below. It gets you access to everything I know about Madden 25, College Football 25, everything for just $10. So thanks for watching the video, and hope you learned something that will take your Madden game to the next level.